The tempestuous sea queen Gráinne has had few equals in Irish seafaring lore. Her remarkable escapades made her at once a Gaelic folk hero and simultaneously the scourge of the British administration. In her time, she never failed to exploit a situation to her advantage. Now, in her old stomping ground around Louisburgh, her lineal descendants, at a remove of 13 or 14 generations, are planning to exploit her story by making it a part of living history and the local tourism industry. The town was en fete for the official opening of the Granuaile Interpretive Centre, which is to be a location for the study of Connauht's medieval history. Environment Minister Padraig Flynn, in inaugurating the new centre, spoke of the importance of reawakening interest in our historic past and in learning how to exploit it.
We have to pay more attention to tourism related to archaeology and to history and the folklore of the various areas around the country. There's a great richness in our heritage, and there's a great need to protect it. And the best way to protect it, as far as I'm concerned, is to proclaim it.
Medieval legend has it that Granuaille took a scissors to her girlish tresses. Her biographer, Anne Chambers, had a nervous moment or two as the minister advanced to do the formal tape-cutting ceremony.
Wheel the scissors on the table and me. I don't want my hair cut like Granuaille anyway, that's for sure.
You won't go near it. Okay. Oh, it's quite a big ribbon. No experience in cutting at all.
The new centre, which is partly EC funded, cost about £13,000 to develop and equip. To historians like Anne Chambers, it's of very considerable social and educational importance.
Well, for my money, Gráinne O'Malley was the most extraordinary woman to have ever graced the pages of our history. A woman who was a sea pirate, a mercenary, a leader of a private army of 200 people, an admiral of a fleet of galleys which operated on a mercenary piracy trading basis up and down the west coast of Ireland to Spain, to Portugal, to Scotland. She hired herself out on a mercenary basis to bring in the famous Gallo glass in here to fight in many of the feuds among the Gaelic chieftains, and of course against the incursions of the English administration from Dublin. She was an astute politician. She could converse, and indeed did, with all the English officials in the English administration here in Ireland at the time, and of course culminating in her meeting with Queen Elizabeth I of England in 1593. She was an extraordinary woman by any term of the word. I think these centres, like the Louisburgh Interpretive Centre, which we opened here today, I think they're vitally important really, both of local interest, for tourist interest, and particularly I think for children, parents and school teachers, because I think it is through centres like this that history certainly becomes alive, and through a life story of such an extraordinary woman like Gráinne O'Malley, the whole background to our century, the social and political aspects of the 16th century suddenly come alive. I know they do for me, and I wish I learned my history like the way people now have an opportunity of learning theirs in centres like this.
And for Mayo's best-known peer, himself a direct descendant of Granuaille, it was also a day to remember.
She was a woman of enormous courage, and I think in this particular century there were very few women that stood out with having this enormous fire and enormous courage, and led, in fact, thousands of men and women in this most extraordinary way.
The centre itself is the brainchild of the Louisburgh Development Company, which, with financial assistance from the EC and the Combat Poverty Programme, is attempting to develop all of the area's resources as part of a 4-year programme. At the moment, the emphasis is being placed on turning history and folklore into tourism income.
All people are interested in the past, and we have a repository of history in this area that Americans and people seeking to understand the Irish or the rural people of Western Ireland are very interested in such centres, and it creates a very, very exciting type of cultural stroke economic development.
And strong support for the project has also been pledged by Mayo County Council and the Western Regional Tourism Organisation.
I will certainly be encouraging people to come here I will be encouraging others who are thinking about interpretive centres to come and have a look at this, not exactly as a blueprint, but as an example of how something can be done.
One of the things I think we forget is that the history and culture of Ireland can stand really proudly with anything else in Europe, and we haven't exploited that enough. Here's a great example of how it's being exploited.